We have another major Mitch Marner trade update as a reporter has come out and revealed that there's a good chance that Mitch Marner extends with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'm going to break down that report as well as discuss some rumblings about if they are to trade Mitch Marner, what the package could look like. So there's a lot to discuss today. Before we do, if you're part of the 80% who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that button. It would mean the world to Darius and myself as we're on the road to 11,000 subscribers and we make daily Leafs content for you all. Now, Darius, some rumblings are coming out now as we're approaching the time where moves are going to start to be made. There's obviously the Game 6 tonight of the Stanley Cup Final. And once that concludes, moves will really start to get going. But let's not waste any more time and let's dive right into it. So Paul Bissonnette, he's been right about a lot of things. Obviously, he's not a direct reporter, but he's been right about some things this year. And this is what he said in Spit and Chicklets podcast. I'm hearing rumblings. They're in the process of negotiating a contract extension with Mitch Marner. Now, Darius, I will just leave it there. There's some more reports we'll get into, but according to Paul Bissonnette, who again kind of has been a bit of an earpiece for some interesting rumblings throughout the year, and he got some things right at the deadline. What are your thoughts on this? He's hearing they're in the midst of an extension. Now, maybe this is just again their camp playing games to try to get the most out of the Marner.
Yeah, I have to laugh at this point. It's pretty funny to me. I mean, I think it's all coming from Mitch Marner's camp. I think the Leafs have been very quiet with everything. If you really look at everything that's been released this week specifically, everything is tailored towards Mitch Marner. Oh, he wants to stay in Toronto. He wants that extension, right? I think they're kind of showing their cards here in a way, and we've talked about it before, where they're saying we want that 8th year of the extension. If you trade this player, right, he's not going to get that extra year on a contract extension from another team. He's only going to get the 7 years. So I think they're kind of showing their hand that they want the contract extension. I think most of this is coming from his camp or his agent, right? And I just have to laugh at this point because I don't think any of this, or, most of it, probably 95% of it is coming from the Leafs at all. And that being said, I wouldn't actually be surprised if they were working on an extension, but an extension in way of, a sign and trade where he gets that extra year and then he ends up on another team anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised in that way, but an extension in terms of him, signing for 8 years and staying as a Maple Leaf, that goes against everything that the Leafs have kind of come out and said since the season ended, right? So that's why I think some of this or most of this is not actually from the Leafs.
Yeah, it seems like most of the rumors lately, though, like you mentioned, have been about contract negotiations and extensions rather than a trade. Now, whether that's in the form of a sign and trade is ultimately up to them to decide, and we'll find out once it happens. But very, very interesting update. A bit of a scary one. I just don't want to see the same core four back again and them thinking that Paul or Craig Berube will fix all their problems with the core four. Yeah, it'll probably help. Maybe they win a round, but I don't know if this team is capable of making a Stanley Cup playoff with the core four. And this also came out from, if you're familiar with him, he's again, this is more speculation, but he says, as an Islanders fan, the Leafs want a relatively young piece that would hurt if Lou gave him up. Either way, you got to give something up, 2-3 pieces to help fulfill a big need. Linking the Leafs to a certain player, a certain young player on the Islanders screams Noah Dobson. Not much other possibilities there. Dobson, Pageau, and a first as the base of a return. We could even retain a bit of Marner's cap hit to help it get over the finish line. So now, Darius, if we're looking at a trade or a sign and trade, whatever it ends up being, what are your thoughts on this package? This is one we discussed a little bit. It would be headlining Noah Dobson and obviously Mitch Marner there. But Noah Dobson's an interesting one. 70 points last year. Obviously not much of a goal scorer, but 24 years old. This would be a very solid headline for a Mitch Marner return.
I think this is a pretty good trade for the Maple Leafs. Honestly, you free up that salary cap space with Mitch Marner going out the door. This is a almost point a game player as a right shot defenseman. Yeah. This is exactly what you want, right? This is perfect. I think if you're the Maple Leafs, nice little fit, and Pageau would be a good acquisition as well in the package. Like you fill, he can play center. Even if you want to put him on the wing, that's not bad. He can fill a third line position. He is getting a little older, so maybe that's not the best trade scenario. Maybe you tweak the trade a little bit. Maybe even Liljegren's included in the package, right? Like we've been talking about, to free up even more salary. So I don't hate that as a base. Not at all. I think that's a great player. Noah Dobson, like he had 70 points this year, right? On an Islanders team that wasn't that great. They did turn it on at the end, but weren't that great. So right shot defenseman, can't go wrong with that. But I would need to see a little bit more included in the trade.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of all for this one. I'm fine with Dobson in the first, and obviously Pageau as well. I just don't know, and obviously Marner has a lot of value. I'm starting to worry a little bit about what his actual value will end up being once the trade finalizes. And in theory, I think this is a pretty good baseline. I mean, again, you mentioned it. Right shot defenseman, fills a big need. Doesn't matter. He doesn't score a ton of goals. He's a defenseman. And even he'd be the best defenseman on the Leafs. And I guess you can make an argument for Morgan Riley there as well. But that would be a great booster to the blue line. And again, we've mentioned it about how Brad Treliving wants to have a huge bolster to the blue line. And you're comparing him to Mitch Marner. And only a 15-point difference, obviously the game's played, but one's a defenseman,
Yeah.
one's a forward. But I don't know. I really think Dobson, and it makes a lot of sense for the Islanders as well. They obviously want an elite forward, and whether you consider Mitch Marner elite is up to you. But I think it makes the most sense out of many of the trade packages we've seen. Peugeot is a bit older, so maybe they tweak it. They add Liljegren, they get a better piece instead of that, or an extra pick or something like that. But Dobson and a first from Marner, to me, seems to make a lot of sense. And when you're looking at potentially extending Marner now, like, if you can see here, if Toronto extends Marner for any dollar amount, let alone the crazy AAV he's seeking, Leafs fans should stop giving MLSC the money. And we brought this up because fans are not going to be happy if they extend him for $12 million, or even if they extend him for $11 million. Stop filling the building, all this stuff. Like, fans are kind of up in arms about this, and it's lend credit to the fact that since 2018 they haven't been able to win more than one playoff series.
Yeah.
And bringing back Marner would do the exact same thing, even if they make, they signed Domi, maybe they signed DeBrusk and a defenseman. The core four, per se, with one of them being John Tavares getting older, is not enough, I don't think, at this point. And I just want to see something different. I don't want to see the same team over and over and over again.
I think that's what a lot of Leaf fans, the frustration is right now. And obviously there's people on both sides, right? And I can recognize that. And I think that's great. I think if you like Mitch Marner, that's great, right? He's a great hockey player. But I think if you keep Mitch Marner, if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's signaling to all fans that you're not going to change anything and that everything that's happened to this point is okay with you. And I think majority of fans, including myself personally, are kind of fed up with that, right? It's not good enough. We see teams fly past the Leafs and rebuilds in the last couple of years and make it to Eastern Conference Finals or Stanley Cup Finals, and the Leafs are still what they are. And if you keep Mitch Marner, you're kind of telling the fans that, this is the philosophy we want. We're not going to change. We're happy with the way it is, and fans are going to get disgruntled. So, that is an extreme thing. Don't go to the building and throw jerseys on the ice and all that stuff. That's one side of it, and some people want to keep Mitch Marner, but I think the truth is in the middle, where it's like you probably have to move on from this player to A, make your team better, and B, show the fans that, what's happened the last 8 years, you're not happy with. It's not acceptable, because at the end of the day, it isn't.
Yeah, and look, and that's why this report right here is what's getting people a little bit up in arms, is because maybe a sign and trade is ultimately what happens from this, but the rumblings of a contract extension scares fans, and the best version of Mitch Marner we ever saw was under Mike Babcock in the playoffs against Boston. Keith never had the ability. If he extends, I'd be shocked if we don't see the best Marner yet. This is the other side of it, this is kind of the scary part, because this might be the mindset that the Leafs are going under. Okay, he worked under Mike Babcock. Craig Berube is kind of a hybrid of the two, more so on the side of Babcock in the way of actually playing into structures. But I don't know. That's the worry. If they extend Marner, they think, okay, Berube will fix them, and then they go from there. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think you have to trade this player. I think he's a great player, right? And I'm not trying to force him out of town or anything like that, but I think fans are upset. I think fans are fed up. I think that's majority of the fan base that feels that way. We need change. And it starts with him, because obviously he's the only domino that can fall this summer, right? We know Tavares, nothing's going to happen with him. Matthews and Nylander just signed long-term extensions. They're not going to go anywhere. And honestly, they perform, right, when needed most. They do, Nylander especially. So I don't see them going anywhere. You need to free up salary to make the rest of your team better. We see the teams going far in the playoffs. They're very well built all the way around. They're not perfect, but they're well built. So the Leafs, they have to change something, or fans are going to be disgruntled next year. It could get a little ugly if things are exactly the same, because it just sends the message to the fans that, we don't care what you think. And, we think that this is fine. These results are fine.
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts on all these rumors. And if you want to see Mitch Marner get extended in Toronto. That'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. See you soon.